All right, good evening, everybody. It is just after 5 o'clock on July 31st, and we are at the start of our Project Blue Town Hall, virtual style this time around. I'm Tim Tomyer, City Manager, and I'll be your host moderator this evening. We will be online from 5 till 7. And we have, this is our second town hall. The first one was held in person last week. We have another one coming up next week. And we've received a lot of questions about Project Blue, which is no surprise to anybody that's tuning in. We have done our best to answer some questions online and at our website, and we will include some answers to common questions through tonight's presentations. And then we will also be looking for your additional questions tonight. Because we're virtual and online, it's going to be through the Q&A function. If you're viewing through the Teams Town Hall, start your lookout on your screen for the Q&A. And that'll be your, if you click on the Q&A, then it should bring up your ability to ask a question. And those questions go into a queue that we'll be moderating and curating as we go through the night, so that we can get to as many of those as we can, while we'll also be capturing them for those that we don't get through. We'll make sure that we get them added to our question trackers that we have online, and get answers posted to those we can. And anything we can't answer, we'll do the homework necessary to make sure we can get you answers to your questions. So with that, our agenda for tonight is very similar to the last meeting, in that we have a presentation. What's a little bit different, other than the fact that we're online, is we're gonna give it in segments this time, where we give the project team will do a segment, and then I'm going to ask them a few questions that we've received from folks right after they present, and then we'll have the water section, which we've expanded. The vast majority of the slides tonight are similar or the same as what we presented last week, but we have really expanded the water section based on the questions and types of questions we've gotten from people, not just at the town hall, but generally. And Tucson Water will make that presentation. Then I'll ask them some questions related to that. And then we have Tucson Electric Power again here with us, who will do the brief presentation on the energy piece of it, and I have questions for them as well. And then there's some questions that have come in or have been generated from the community that don't necessarily fit those categories. So after we finish the presentation and those questions, we'll have some additional Q&A, where we have questions in the area of accountability, community impacts, climate and environment, and just overall policy on data centers. And I'll go through asking those questions of the panelists tonight. And every once in a while, I might be the one who answers them as well. And again, as mentioned, we'll curate tonight's questions and get to what we can tonight. So you're only, as a participant, you're basically, you can get audio and video of the presenters, and you can interact through that Q&A button, but it's not like a chat. It's not like you put a thing in and then we respond through the chat. The Q&A is in this format's a little different. But send those questions to the Q&A, and if your question, as I mentioned, is not answered this evening, please check the FAQ at tucsonaz.gov/projectblue. Next slide, please. With that, I would like to, the slide's up now telling you tonight's town hall, and I went through that information with you just a bit ago. So there it is on the slide for you. With that, I'd like to pivot to the next slide, where we will allow the Project Blue team the opportunity to first introduce themselves, and then go through their presentation, and then we'll go to the moderated Q&A, and then we'll proceed from there. So with that, Carrie, would you like to start the introductions?
Sure. Thank you, Tim. Carrie Sylvan with Lazarus and Sylvan, representing the Beal team. I'm going to turn it over to Logan to introduce Beal and let the team members introduce themselves as well.
Thanks, Carrie. Good evening. My name is Logan Craig. I'm the Vice President of Development here at Beal Infrastructure. Previous to Beal, I was on Microsoft's self-performed data center group, and I have a background in utility scale solar and wind development. What drew me to Beal was the team of industry veterans that they've built here that has a deep experience delivering large-scale infrastructure projects successfully and safely all over the world. Beal Infrastructure develops data centers with leading technology companies, and our priorities are commitment to sustainability, community investment, and health and safety in the communities in which we operate. I have some team members here today to help answer questions who I'm going to turn over for introductions right now. Arnaud, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so my name is Arnaud Dusser. I'm Director of Development at Beal Infrastructure, and I lead development activities in Southern Arizona. My background is in civil and environmental engineering, and prior to joining Beal, I designed and developed real estate and infrastructure projects, both nationally and internationally.
And hi everyone, Hi everyone, I'm Christina Kassler. I'm the head of water and wastewater for Beal Infrastructure. I have a background in water and wastewater infrastructure development for data centers with Meta, and I'm an environmental engineer, formerly a consultant with significant prior experience in recycled water.
Okay, Carrie, take it away, and just when you're ready for your next slide, just call and Jim will take care of you. You're on mute, Carrie.
Sorry, I'm having trouble seeing which slide is up. Are we
the top slide is what's showing.
Okay. All right, so we can skip down to the third slide. The Beal Infrastructure was the second slide. So what are data centers is where we are. So one more down. There we go. So data centers, many of you may know, are critical infrastructure to support our daily lives and modern economy. All of us have cell phones, computers, multiple in each household. A lot of us make doctor's appointments online, check medical records, bank virtually, work virtually and remotely, and all of that requires cloud-based activity. Data centers do provide key benefits to communities where they locate, well-paying jobs, significant tax revenues, minimum traffic impacts, improvements to infrastructure, increases to local connectivity because of the cloud-based infrastructure being close in proximity to all of those various uses, including government as well. Go ahead. Next slide, sorry.
But Carrie, we're still working through some of the bugs behind the scenes, so he'll
It's
be
okay.
going to the Y Tucson slide.
So I'll just keep speaking it while we shift. Okay.
Yeah, Carrie, I think the audience can actually see both slides at the same time. So
Perfect. Okay.
oh, here we go. Here we go. So we're
right.
going to go to the Y Tucson slide.
Okay, so why Tucson? We have a few reasons. I know we're waiting for the slide, but I'm going to go ahead and go. Strategic location. We have over 1 million people in our region. Low risk of natural disasters. We're connected to major markets via existing fiber and freight routes. And we really want to create data centers near our users, education, government, aerospace, and defense. Most importantly, I think, is the alignment of Beal's values that you heard from Logan with the City of Tucson and Pima County's climate action plans. In the city, it's the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, as well as economic plans. We have a strong workforce. We have a large pool of skilled local trade labor capable of delivering complex infrastructure projects. As we heard at both the Board of Supervisors and the last community meeting, we have a lot of those folks who live here, and they're having to get up really early in the morning and travel either to another state or within the state to have jobs and then come back to their families. This would fill that void. We have a diverse pipeline of local talent equipped to meet the broad range of skill sets needed to operate data centers into the future, and an ability to partner with the community colleges, universities, and the other education systems, public education in the future to really build that workforce and those opportunities. Water stewardship. Tucson Water has been an industry leader in water stewardship for the last 125 years. This aligns with the values, as I said, for Beal infrastructure. Tucson Water, I know, will be doing a presentation a little bit later. They are your local experts. And we've been able to really work with Tucson Water on a plan that increases the use of reclaimed water by building significant infrastructure, as well as establishing a new framework that really can be a new framework for all industrial users going forward on water positivity. The last is power availability. It exists today, and it exists from renewable resources. TEB has been planning for reliability and growth, including economic development, with a mandate to support local economic development. Project Blue adds another industry ratepayer with consistent power usage to increase reliability of the system. The infrastructure is there. The renewable energy sources are available for the start of the project, and it aligns with Beal principles. This is really an opportunity to work with TEP on future phases to accelerate the energy transition. Next slide. A little bit about the project context. You can see where the primary project is at I-10 and Houghton. It's just north of the fairgrounds. A portion of it is currently used as a shooting range. This is an area around that purple line, which I'll talk about in a minute, that's been designated for industrial growth by both the city, the county, and state land. This is important because at this moment in time, only drinking water is available, potable water is available to this part of the region. This project is responsibly sited. One lesson we learned from other jurisdictions, including the Phoenix area, is to locate in an area with other planned industrial and employment use and not directly adjacent to single-family residents. Our closest single-family resident is across I-10 to the north and well over a mile away. This is near a major, recently improved I-10 and Houghton intersection. The nearest utility infrastructure which there will be upgrades and oversizing. You can see on the pop out with the primary project in those yellow lines and the arrow. We have done environmental impact analyses as part of the specific plan with the county. There's no impact to sensitive habitat and no findings of cultural resources. The purple line I want to point out is the new recharge line that gives you some perspective of the stretch from east to west across the city that this 18 miles will encompass. You'll hear more about this investment in a minute. It's over $100 million of oversized extension of the city reclaimed water line. Along with that big green area is an opportunity for a 30-acre aquifer recharge facility that will also double as a recreation amenity. For those of you who live in this area, think of Sharp, which is the current facility that's out there, and it would look something like that and be designed similarly. And this will all be the purple pipe, as well as the aquifer recharge and the recreation area are designed and fully funded by Beal. Just to give you some perspective, also nearby, in addition to the fairgrounds, is the Los Reales Sustainability Campus, which, as I said before, is currently using potable water because that's all that's available, or drinking water, and currently uses about 306 acre-feet per year for compaction and dust control for the landfill. So this gives an ability to convert that over to reclaimed water in the future. The airport is out near here, and as I said, an opportunity for the aquifer recharge and recreation area. We can go to the next slide. And I'm going to speak very quickly about the commitment that Beal is making to water, and I think Tucson Water is going to talk a little bit more about this. Project Blue will be net water positive. We're setting a new standard for industrial users coming into our region to support the city's longstanding water conservation and water stewardship. We will replenish over 100% of consumptive use, both while we are using potable for the 2 years that we will be building the reclaimed water line for the first phase, as well as once we're using the reclaimed water. We're going to be investing in programs that truly create and tap into new water. And again, Tucson Water will explain that in a little more detail. Just want to note, I said this before, the reclaimed water line will take 2 years to construct. The consumptive loss replenishment requirement in the development agreement is for both potable and the ongoing reclaimed water use. The infrastructure investment, which is the second pillar under the water positivity, is that 18-mile reclaimed water line and the 30-acre aquifer and recreation area being designed, constructed, and oversized by Beal Infrastructure, and providing that opportunity really at no cost to the city and the taxpayers. Brings that reclaimed water opportunity into this southeastern area of the region. Project Blue will not reduce water flow in the river, nor reduce the amount of water we lose from the region. The last is operational efficiency on site. This is designed to optimize energy and water efficiency. Cooling technology enables operation without any water when internal temperatures range in the 80s and 90s. So you can internalize that water is really not needed during winter months, shoulder months, and many of the nighttime hours and some of the outtime hours in the summer. At full build out, the water usage is just 6% of the reclaimed water within the Tucson Water portfolio and only 1% of Tucson Water's entire portfolio. And unlike other users of reclaimed water, like golf courses currently on the system, or potable water for that matter, there will be the contractual commitment to water positivity. Go ahead, next slide. This next slide provides a little bit of context. Actually, we don't have that slide, so I'll just move on to power and clean energy. So Project Blue is committed to prioritizing clean energy generation sources. Project Blue will be a customer of TEP, subject to the energy mix that TEP has and that TEP will be creating in the future with the alignment of goals towards renewable energy generation. Project Blue will support and not impact TEP's net zero emissions goal net emissions by 2050 goal. And it will also not impact TEP's retirement of all coal assets by 2032. In the initial phase, which is the first about half, a little less than half of the initial project, the power required for that phase is excess capacity in the current energy mix and 900 megawatts of renewable resources that are identified in TEP's most recent all resource RFPs, which are 100% renewable. The initial phase also includes Project Blue funded infrastructure improvements that will be oversized for the system. Project Blue is working with TEP and the system and the city on feasibility of installing solar panels as well over the parking areas. We can't put those on the roofs because of the equipment that's needed on the roofs of these buildings. For future phases, Project Blue supports TEP's 2050 net zero emissions plan going forward, and the generation for future phases will be sourced through new RFPs as required by state law. Energy supply agreement with TEP is designed to ensure no risk or financial burdens are passed on to other customers. Project Blue is going to pay TEP's full rate for industrial scale customers, which more than covers the service costs, and will pay the upfront cost of infrastructure developed for its use. Also, a termination fee and letter of credit that more than cover any costs TEP will incur on its behalf are part of that agreement. Really quickly want to touch on backup generators. There have been lots of questions about emissions from data centers. The primary source are backup generators. These are generators. These are truly backup generators. They're not under TEP control, not used by TEP to serve the grid. They are only there in case they are needed for backup. Next slide. And go to the next slide. please. Thank you, Jim. This is obviously the economic impact slide. Project Blue would be the largest economic development project in Tucson's history. It aligns with Tucson's economic strategic plan as well as climate goals. And it also aligns with the county's economic strategic plan. An independent economic analysis was done for just the initial phase. And again, these are numbers on the top line that are just for that half of the primary project site. We also have the rest of that primary project site and the secondary site. So that is the multiplier that you're seeing on the second line. This involves an unprecedented $3.6 billion in capital investment over the multi-year construction project. That's $1.2 billion in construction and $2.4 billion in equipment. It does not include the capital investment for 18 miles of the reclaimed water line and the aquifer recharge. And it does not include the future phases, as I said, so that's your multiplier underneath. The tax revenue generated into the entire public system for that initial phase, city, county, and state, is $250 million over 10 years. $97 million is what's coming to the city of Tucson's general fund, supports anything that the city of Tucson uses its general fund for. This project will also support school districts. The primary project is currently owned by the county, so it's not part of the property tax base either. So once it's sold to a private entity, it will be included in the tax base as well. And again, these are only numbers from the initial phase. Construction jobs, 3,000 construction jobs over 3 years. And again, that's just for the initial phase. It does not include any of the construction jobs for the reclaimed water line or the aquifer recharge. Many people have talked about the fact that the idea that construction jobs are temporary jobs. Folks in the construction industry would say all construction jobs are temporary jobs, and we are talking about a project that's going to be a 10-year construction all the way through. So 10 years is I would opine is not necessarily a temporary job. Permanent jobs, the initial phase, full-time employees on site is 180. And again, that is just for about a fourth of the full project build out over time. Go ahead, last slide. Beal very much has a focus on community investment and sustainability. We're providing job opportunities for our local folks, and we're excited about partnering with public schools, community colleges, and universities for workforce training. These can include STEM education classes, apprenticeships and internships, skills certifications, hiring to keep local talent, and education workshops, just to name a few. We are also incorporating sustainability design features into the project, some of which are already required by the city and some that go above and beyond. So tree planting, we are meeting the on-site and exceeding those requirements. We're also excited to work with the community on other community-wide initiatives. Public green space, the design and construction of the 30-acre aquifer recharge, along with all of the recreation amenities that go with that, is something that is above and beyond. Native vegetation, we're complying with the Native Plant Preservation Ordinance to enhance flood control. Rainwater harvesting, we're complying with the city's rainwater harvesting and the county's first flush requirements. We will include EV charging stations on site for employees. We are looking at the feasibility of installing solar panels above the parking areas where it's feasible. And we're doing on-site preservation of open space along with the public green space commitment and complying with local ordinances related to flood control. With that, I think I am turning it over back to Tim.
Yep. Thank you, Carrie. And we'll go to the next slide. And I will take this next couple of minutes to ask a few questions that have either come in from the community or from prior town halls related to your presentation. And then everybody rest assured, our next topic will be water, where we'll go into a lot of detail on that. So these are just questions kind of keying off what Carrie just presented. So one of the most basic questions we get is why would you be trying to build data centers in the desert?
Yeah, I can take that one. So Tucson is truly a strategic location for this. The Tucson metro area has over 1 million people, so it's a major population center, and proximity to customer demand is a real consideration here. It also has access to a strong local workforce to support not only operations, but that multi-year construction period that Carrie was just talking about. We're drawn to the region by Tucson Water's commitment to water stewardship, the availability of reclaimed water, and their willingness for public-private partnership on not only major infrastructure build-outs, but water positivity projects is also very attractive. And then finally, this is probably the best solar resource in the country. There's power availability, and TEP has an interconnection queue that is truly enormous of highly viable solar and battery projects that take advantage of that natural resource. So all those things drawn together make Tucson a really attractive market for something like this.
Thank you, Logan. The next question we get a lot is, what guarantees, if any, are there that these jobs will be for local Tucsonans?
Yeah, I can take that one. So what I'll say on that is we are committed to being, a long-term partner in Tucson, and is absolutely our intent to hire local talent, both for the construction phase and for ongoing operations. Hiring locally just makes sense. It reduces travel, relocation costs, allows faster project mobilization, and it just supports the community that's supporting us, really. We'll be engaging with, and Carrie mentioned this earlier, with the local workforce programs and educational institutions like the Vail School District, Pima County Community College, the University of Arizona. And it's really creating that pipeline of local talent. They'll be able to work not just these construction jobs, which will be a very long time, but also the permanent jobs that we're creating on site. So our goal isn't just creating a world-class data center, it's also creating those meaningful partnerships that contribute to Tucson's long-term economic growth, and which means those high-quality jobs locally.
Thanks, Arno. One of the basic questions, and you show a diagram that shows the number, like an initial phase with some buildings, and I think what we've made clear is that there's at least 2 sites being considered in the development agreement with the city. And we talk about a primary or initial phase, and we talk about build out. Just how many data centers or buildings are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's also something I can answer. So we're still in the early phases of the design overall. The slide that was up earlier shows what that initial phase represents, which would be roughly 4 buildings, and that's just on that initial site. So the $3.6 billion that we're talking about, the 3,000 construction jobs, the 180 jobs, are just for that initial phase and just for those 4 buildings. When the project would be fully built out, so when we have those next steps and commitments from our sides to be able to fully build it out, you'd be looking at roughly 10 buildings on that primary site. The secondary site, which we're still in the exploratory phase and looking at several options, would be slightly larger than that first site.
And on that point, I just want to add that those buildings on the primary and the secondary site, those are being designed, developed, and constructed by Vail Infrastructure. We will be the long-term owner of those facilities.
Fair to say you're basically the landlord, or you would own those facilities, and others would lease that space from you, or rent it, or however that business model works. But Vail doesn't leave the picture, is your intent?
That's correct. We're designing, developing, building, and will be the long-term owner of this facility.
Okay. If you're okay, I've got a couple questions that I think are for Christina. your water expert. First one is and we're going to talk more water later from the Tucson water perspective, but you've said in prior venues that you treat the water before you use it for industrial purposes to make it work well and last longer and cycle. But what chemicals are you adding during that process to make it work?
Yeah, great question. So when we treat the water, we're actually working to remove minerals like calcium and magnesium that scale up our system. They're the same things that cause scale in your showers or by your faucets. So we remove these minerals via a membrane process. So it's a physical removal. And then when we remove them, actually that wastewater discharge is combined with the rest of our wastewater and sent down the drain. We just remove it so that we can cycle up this water in our cooling process and it doesn't damage any of our equipment, although it's just, commonly naturally occurring minerals. So this is very similar to how like an at-home water softener would work, like under sink reverse osmosis system. And currently, actually, the only chemical that we're planning on adding right now is a disinfectant like chlorine to the water to make sure that we don't have any biological growth in our cooling system. Chlorine is a very common chemical used in water treatment to disinfect the water. It's also the same kind of chlorine that's used in pools to keep pools clean. And then all of our wastewater discharge will actually be sent to Pima County Regional Wastewater Reclamation Department. We will have an industrial discharge permit that means that all of the wastewater discharge is going to be tested and monitored for compliance with the permit limits. And we're actively working with Pima County right now on determining what this permit could look like and how to ensure protection of the environment.
Thanks, Christina. So when you say it goes down the drain, you mean a drain that goes to the sewer system?
Yes.
For management by Pima County, not a drain that goes to the storm sewer or
Correct,
to the environment.
Yes. Yeah, it will be treated, it'll be combined with the rest of the wastewater that comes from Pima County and treated in one of Pima County's many water reclamation facilities before being discharged or reused again as recycled water.
Okay, so with that, is there any other potential for groundwater contamination from a data center operation? If your wastewater discharge is going to the sewer system for collection and treatment, are there any other risks to groundwater?
We are not discharging anything directly to the environment. There's our stormwater will be run through a stormwater permit. The only thing that we are actively discharging to the groundwater will actually be the aquifer recharge and recovery facility that uses the highly treated reclaimed water in an underground storage facility. But that is still run through a permit through the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, and that facility will be run by Tucson Water by their very capable staff who already run the Southeast Houghton Area Recharge Project and the Sweetwater facility. That permit requires monthly monitoring of groundwater to ensure that there is no contamination even from the recycled water being recharged.
Thank you. Kind of two more questions before we go to the Tucson Water and the water side. This one is, I think people have a certain perception about water use and what types of water are being used and the role of recharge. So let me read it to you and then see how you can respond to it, because I'm just going to ask you to explain this one. Mm-hmm. So first of all, can you confirm that Project Blue will not use any potable water for industrial uses after the reclaim line is operational?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So I've heard from some community members that have an understanding that the reclaim line would only be used to recharge water to that recharge facility, but then potable water is what would be used for the cooling towers. Can you just explain that?
Yeah, first, a quick note, and this is slight terminology. We are not going to be using cooling towers on this site. Cooling towers are incredibly water inefficient. So we are using a different kind of cooling system that's a bit more efficient, like what Carrie mentioned earlier. But the reclaimed water will first go to recharge water into the aquifer via the aquifer recharge and recovery facility. But then what happens is that will basically serve as an underground reservoir. So the system is our cooling system only uses water in the summer months, really. And during the winter months and any months where there's low demand on the system, the reclaimed water is going into the aquifer recharge facility and storing underneath in like an underground reservoir. And then during periods of use, there will be wells that will tap into this underground reservoir and then deliver that same water to the facilities all through the reclaimed water system. And that's the water that we are going to be using in our system, not the potable system that Tucson Water has. We are fully on the purple pipe system for all industrial uses. There will still be a potable connection, but that's for things like bathrooms, sinks, kitchens, things for, health and safety of our employees. But those uses are very similar to like an office space.
Okay, thanks, Christina. And when we get to Tucson Water, what you're describing through that recharge and recovery process is very similar to other projects that have been in operation in Tucson for decades. And so we can have Scott also address that in his thing. My last question for now for this group is, and this one came in just today, actually, by email. Would the data centers be likely to use the generators for power if the cost of power you pay to TEP gets so high that it's cheaper to run the generators?
I can take that one. Absolutely not. I know there has been some bad actors out there in the industry who are using on-site generators for primary power, and we will not do that. Our backup generators are just that. They're for backup. They're for emergencies only. They are tested monthly for about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on manufacturing requirements. But they are only tested for maintenance and used in times of true grid emergencies. That is not, these are not for peak shaving. These are not for any sort of primary load. These are strictly emergency generators.
Thank you for that. And thanks for answering those questions. Let's, and you can see how engaged Tucsonans are. I know you're, working with Tucson for the first time, and they're thinking. So thanks for the answer on that one. So let's go to the next slide, and I'd like to call up Scott Schladweiler, Deputy Director of Tucson Water, and he will, again, for those of you that were at the previous town hall, this is an expanded presentation because of the volume of questions on water, and you get to hear straight from our resident expert, Scott. I turn it to you.
All right, thank you, Tim. Good evening, everybody. As Tim mentioned, my name is Scott Schladweiler. I'm a Deputy Director here at Tucson Water. And my goal for tonight is to go over some facts and information that will hopefully help everybody understand how we operate the reclaim system, what it does, how it works, what this project looks like to us. I will try to answer some questions on how much water we have available. Those are things that have come up a lot, what our total water resource portfolio looks like. And then we'll also talk about water positivity a little bit. So next slide, please, Tim, or Jim. All right, let's start with the reclaim system. We're going to go all the way back to 1979 and start with really where this started. And in 1979, Pima County and the city of Tucson executed an intergovernmental agreement which transferred all of the wastewater assets to Pima County. So operation of the facilities, the collection systems, they were responsible for treating everything within the region. And that one of the key components of this IGA was that Tucson retained 90% of the effluent credits that were generated by any of the metropolitan facilities located in Tucson. This was very important for water management within Tucson, and there was a lot going on at the time, right? The following year, the 1980 Groundwater Management Act was adopted, and that was something that really set the stage for all water management as we even know it today in Arizona. The additional resource provided by the treated effluent is something that provided a new resource for Tucson to comply with a lot of those requirements. So fast forward to 1984, Tucson hooked up its first customer to the reclaim system. That was Laflin Golf Course. That was a huge effort on our part. Laid down a bunch of pipe very quickly, started serving water there. We fast forward to where we are today. The system has grown incredibly. We now serve over 1,000 customers throughout Tucson. There's about 180 miles of pipe that run throughout the system. We have a peak delivery capacity of just over 30 million gallons a day. We have multiple storage facilities where we can store water in the aquifer that we're not delivering to customers, and it also has provided a great number of benefits to the community. Right, this system reduces reliance on groundwater, on our Colorado River supply. It has provided an alternate source for golf courses, for schools, parks, everybody for use of that water. It's also provided an economic benefit to the community, supporting all those golf courses. Any golfers out there know that Tucson in the fall is the place to be for golf. There's our peak delivery times. We're serving up to 17 golf courses throughout the community. There are two main sources of supply for the reclaim system. Agua Nueva is one of Pima County's wastewater reclamation facilities. It's located right there in the center of your screen, the kind of the green triangle there. That is the primary source of reclaimed water for our reclaim system. On average, we get between 20 and 22,000 acre feet of credits from Tucson or from Pima County on an annual basis. That varies year to year because of weather, because of temperature. As you know, it's very dependent on how water is used throughout the system. We take that water, we deliver that water to customers directly through our system. On average, that's around between 11 and 14,000 acre feet a year of water that's delivered to those customers. What we don't deliver directly to customers, we store in the aquifer, we store in the ground. We have multiple storage facilities, including the Sweetwater storage facility or Sweetwater recharge facility, located right there next to the Agua Nueva wastewater facility. That facility can store up to 13,000 acre feet a year of water if we can put that much in there, which we have in the past. We also have the South Houghton Area Recharge Project located on the east side of town. We also store water there. In fact, out at Sharp, within the next year, we will be expanding recharge capacity to that facility. The other major source of supply for the reclaim system is TARP. That's the Tucson Airport Remediation Project that's located on the southern part of your screen there. That was actually a Superfund site that was originally constructed in 1994. It was originally built to treat and capture and contain a plume of TCE located just northwest of the Tucson airport. That has provided a major benefit to the community, right? It's prevented contaminated source of water from migrating north into the central well field. Right now, that system provides about 7,500 acre feet a year of treated water. That's remediated water with no contaminants in it whatsoever. That is connected to the reclaimed water system just north of the Mission Manor Booster Station. Thanks to some support from ADEQ and our friends at the state, we have $25 million in additional funding where we are actually expanding that facility right now to do additional treatment to remove PFAS. That capacity will be increasing to 10,000 acre feet a year, and that will be complete at the end of next summer. So in total, we have about 32,000 acre feet a year of water that's available to serve customers. We have between 11 and 14,000 acre feet of demand on average, and what doesn't get delivered to customers is put back into the aquifer for future use. There are a couple other storage facilities I do want to point out as well. Water that doesn't get pulled out, water that does get discharged back into the Santa Cruz, which occurs both at Agua Nueva and at the Tres Rios Water Reclamation Facility. Both of those go into what are called managed recharge facilities in the Santa Cruz River. We get credit for that water that is recharged. Our proportional share of the credit comes right back to us. The water that comes out of the Tres Rios Water Reclamation Facility goes directly into the river. That is not connected to the reclaim system in any way, shape, or form. That is disconnected. All that water goes directly into that facility. The Agua Nueva is the only water facility or wastewater reclamation facility that does contribute to the reclaim system. When we look at planning efforts and how this system was built, it was really a destination built system, right? After many of the golf courses, the schools and parks and everything were already established within town. We built the system to go serve them. One of the things that you don't see on the screen here on the figure is anything down in the southern part of town, and that's because we haven't had any major users down there to this point. So long-term planning efforts do include installing a transmission main and any reclaimed infrastructure down there to serve future customers. So that is something we've been looking forward to for a very long time. So this project does present that opportunity, should it be approved. Next slide. All right, let's take a snapshot and look at our total resource portfolio. First off, let's start with Colorado River water, right? We have the largest allocation in the state of municipal industrial Colorado River water, over 144,191 acre feet a year. Our average demand is right around 100,000 acre feet a year. So for decades since we've been taking this, what we don't use, we've been putting in the ground and storing, and we call that banking. We've been putting that water in the ground where we can use it for future use. Right now, we have almost 6 years of just Colorado River water stored in the ground. We're doing the same thing with reclaimed water, right? I just mentioned that what we don't use and what isn't delivered to customers to meet demand goes into the ground where we're storing that water. We get long-term storage credits for that. That helps build our resource portfolio up. I know there's a lot of concern with groundwater. Groundwater is a finite resource, but there's a lot of groundwater available in Tucson. We actually have millions and millions of acre feet in the ground that are physically and legally available for us to access, to continue supplying our customers, to continue meeting demand. There are well over, right around 60 years of water in the aquifer right now as we speak. One of the other sources of water that we are really starting to focus on and have done quite a bit with over the last couple of years is rainwater in form of rainwater harvesting, but also stormwater, and capturing that water to use that in offset groundwater use to support other environmental projects such as our Storm to Shade program, our Million Trees program, where we can install other vegetation around that'll help with the heat island effect around town. These are really hard to quantify in some ways, but they do offset groundwater use and have a very positive effect on our environment around town, as well as the quality of life. So one of the questions we always get, and I know it came up even at the last meeting, is how much water do we actually have? As a municipal provider, we are required to have what's called a designation of assured water supply. This is something that's required by the Department of Water Resources, which was actually established as part of that 1980 Groundwater Management Act that I mentioned. This is a very important piece, a very important document. It protects both customers and protects the environment. It's actually a very lengthy process to go to as well. What we have to do is provide all of our resources, all of our current demands. We have to show our committed demands, which is all of our platted lots. Those lots that we've committed to serving but have not yet installed meters on or have not been built on. And then we also include projected water use and projected growth throughout our system. And what this is we have to show that we can provide water to all of our customers and projected customers for a period of 100 years. Our last approved designation of assured water supply was in 2014. We're actually working on a modification today as we speak. We're about this close to getting that completed. So in 2014, the total amount of water that we had available to us on an annual basis was over 182,000 acre feet per year. And just to compare that to our demand, again, we were at right around 100,000 acre feet a year. And this was almost 10 years ago now. And while I can tell you that I can't tell you what the final numbers will be on the new one, but those will be out and be public very soon, and even made public for review. That number is not going down; it's actually going up quite a bit. So our capacity to provide for the community is steadily increasing, and this is in great thanks to the community. We have, as Tim and others have mentioned earlier, we have a very water smart community. We're very conscious of where we live and how we live, and how important water is to it. But it's also there were also a lot of very important decisions made by mayors and council, both past and present, that really set the stage for our water sustainability and our water future. Next slide. All right, so Christina actually talked a little bit about this. This is what the proposed project looks like. This is the reclaimed water infrastructure that Project Blue is proposing to construct. It is about 18 miles of pipeline. There's also an additional intermediate booster station and reservoir, which is the yellow triangle. So what the project will do is connect to our existing system at the Mission Manor pump station. This pump station was actually built and designed to accommodate future expansion. So they will be replacing some pumps, upgrading some facilities there, connecting to the existing system, and then that water will be pumped over to the yellow area there where there will be a future recharge facility. This will be an aquifer storage and recovery facility, very similar to the Sweetwater recharge facilities, or just like our Colorado River storage facilities, CAVSRP and SAVSRP, located on the far west side of town. As was mentioned, water demands and on the reclaim system during the winter months are very low. So during the winter months, we will be pushing water to the recharge facilities. We need places to store this. This facility will add capacity for the Tucson system where we can store additional water. And then during the peak months, we'll recover water from this facility to meet demands, both for Project Blue and any other future customers in that area. One of the major advantages to this is with the storage that we have here during those peak months, when we recover from this facility, it'll have much smaller impact or less than any impact to the rest of the system, all the way back to our reclaim plant. This facility will be permitted through both ADEQ and ADWR. So through ADEQ, they will be required to monitor water quality to make sure there are no changes or impacts to the existing water quality in the area. Same goes for the water quantity. That is monitored and will be permitted by ADWR. We will know exactly how much water is being recharged in there, and then with the recovery wells that are built to collect that water and deliver that water to customers from that, we'll know exactly how much goes out. Now, I know there's also been questions on, okay, will we be pumping groundwater out of this facility, or will it all be recovered water? This will be a recovery facility. We will only recover water out of there that is stored, so we will not be impacting any groundwater levels in that area. So we just want to make sure that is understood. There's no intent to impact groundwater levels. In fact, the intent is to store more water there and increase the water supply in that area, which would be a huge benefit to the entire city. Water from this area all flows north and northwest into the central well field, so anything that we can put here will certainly help the rest of the aquifer later on. Next slide. All right, so let's switch gears and talk about water positivity. I know there are a lot of questions surrounding this and what this means. Project Blue will be required to replenish at least 100% of their consumptive use. And this is all potable, all reclaimed water, everything that is supplied to the primary site or even the secondary site. What that means is we want to replace anything that what we need to do is replace that water with something that is measurable and quantifiable, that shows an increase in water quantity, water quality, or access to water that we didn't have access to water before. This is going to be done in a couple of different ways, right? Starting on day one, as soon as meters are set, Project Blue will pay all the same standard fees same standard rates that every other user will pay. So whether that's for potable, they'll pay their commercial rates. When they're on reclaim, they'll pay the reclaim rates. They'll pay the same monthly fees, the same fees as any other customer. But in addition, they will pay what's called a water positivity or a water replenishment rate. This is a rate that will be paid to Tucson Water so that we can implement water positivity projects that will offset the use of this water. There's another method that they can do as well, and that is they can implement a project on their own, and we'll talk about some of those projects here in a couple seconds. They can implement those projects to offset those. So that might mean constructing facilities. That might mean implementing programs that help with conservation. Project Blue is going to be required to be 100% net water positive on this. That will be by contract, so this is not a choice. Everything that we're talking about here, including the water positivity rate, which is currently set in the development agreement at about $750 an acre foot, This is still all subject to review by mayor and council. So these things are subject to change. They could go up, it could go down. One of the things that was asked earlier is how do we come upon that rate? That rate was looked at in comparison to a lot of other water conservation projects around the state. About half of those projects were more costly and half of them were less expensive to implement. So that was the starting point for this rate, but that is subject to change. Next slide. All right, so we broke this up into about 5 different sections of water positivity options. The first is conservation, and that's really where we look at reducing water use through increased efficiencies throughout the system. Tucson Water's done a great job with this over the last several decades, right? We're actually using as much water as we did in the late 80s, but we've added about 200,000 more people. And this is primarily through a lot of conservation efforts. And there are a number of ways this can be done. There are a number of ways we have done, we have implemented conservation efforts, but there's a lot more that we can do. Some examples for fixture replacement. There's a lot of technology out there that reduces water flow, shower heads, replacing leaking plumbing, especially in low income areas. We do have programs already in place for this, but there is more that can be done. We collect about $5 million a year. We'll be collecting $5 million a year through our conservation fee. This goes to support all of these programs, and it has done wonders. However, there is more that can be done. We continue to see the need for these. That public education is a major part of this. Turf replacement rebates has been a program that we'd love to see more input from the public, but also through other sources. It just requires funding, and there is a lot of opportunity here for increased conservation. Next slide. System efficiency. Every water system in the world leaks at some point, right? We have leaks throughout our system. There are water losses that we look for, that we need to that impact our ability to provide water. For example, we pump a certain amount of water, and then what we end up billing is always quite a bit less, maybe 8 to 10%. Some of that water, we know where it goes. We test hydrants, we flush for water quality reasons. But there are always other ways that we can capture some of that lost water, for example, through leak detection efforts. Advanced metering infrastructure is something that we're about to start implementing. This is an opportunity to help contribute that has real savings that has been shown throughout the country and other places. We're going to be starting in our program within the next year or so, within the next several months, and deploying advanced metering infrastructure meters. This program has, in other locations, has shown to have savings within the range of 6 to 12% in places. That is when there is, of course, full participation. So we might see something a little less than that, but that is actually, that when we talk about comparing that to our demand, that is actually a real savings. So even if we did 3%, that's up to 3,000 acre feet a year when we look at our total demand. Leak detection efforts. This is something, there's a lot of technology out there. This could be easily implemented for water positivity efforts. We need the resources to do it, but we could find water that we have out there and keep that water in the system for everybody's use. And of course, we do have a lot of aging infrastructure out there, our reservoirs, our mains, all part of our capital improvement program. Additional resources to support replacement of this would be critical in improving our system efficiency. Next slide. Supply augmentation. This is the acquisition of additional water supplies. We can look at importation of water from other locations. That could be desalinated water from another source, even outside of Tucson. There are folks with Central Arizona project leases elsewhere in the state that may not be utilizing their full lease. They may not have a need for it and may be willing to sell it, or some who don't physically have access to the Colorado River water, and that water could be delivered to Tucson. There's also the opportunity to purchase long-term storage credits. If there was a press release yesterday that showed that Tucson Water just purchased 21,000 acre feet of long-term storage credits right here in Tucson. The Bureau has long been storing their portion of effluent in the Santa Cruz River. And just recently they auctioned off about 30,000 acre feet of water, and Tucson bid on that. We were very successful in that. And we actually are in the process of transferring 21,000 acre feet to our water portfolio right now. This is something that could be transferred and utilized for economic development. So there are a number of opportunities with supply augmentation. Next slide. Supply restoration is another big one, right? Tucson has been heavily impacted by PFAS. We've lost over 30 wells and turned off over 30 wells as a result of PFAS contamination, not by our doing, but by others. And we've been very protective of our water quality. This has resulted in almost 28 million gallons a day of capacity and redundancy that we have lost within our system. Treatment projects could be built and constructed, wellhead treatment, for example, to bring this water back online, making this capacity available again to Tucson, to again increase our resiliency. Additional things such as advanced water purification. We are moving forward with that here in Tucson. However, it could be expanded. Project Blue could fund additional treatment trains, additional efforts on that to add supplies to the system to help offset their use. So all of these efforts are things that are accessing water or improving water access that we no longer had. Next slide. And then finally, we have nature-based solutions. So things like our Storm to Shade program. If you haven't looked it up, that is a green stormwater infrastructure program. We do charge fees for it. This has been a fantastic program. We've received accolades nationwide for this. What this does is we use stormwater to offset the use of groundwater to plant vegetation around Tucson through curb inlets, chicanes. It's been an amazing program. Rainwater harvesting also has offsets and the ability to collect water and offset the use of water around town. Ecological restoration is another big one, right? There's tons of opportunities within the river, around town, collaborating with other agencies to use stormwater to put water back in the ground and make that water available for us to use. So nature-based solutions is a big one. Next slide. And then finally, this is a comparison of how Project Blue might compare to golf courses or an equivalent number of houses when we look at overall water positivity. So if we take the initial use of water out of Project Blue, which is about 440 acre feet a year, at the water positivity rate of $750 an acre foot, they would be contributing over $330,000 a year. That money would go towards any number of projects that we were just talking about to help offset their water use. So at the end of the day, the net water used by Project Blue would be zero, because those water positivity projects would contribute back to our resource portfolio. When compared to a golf course, for example, average golf course uses somewhere between 400 and 500 acre feet a year. There is no investment. That is water that is delivered to the golf course just strictly for irrigation. There's no conservation efforts out there, so there's nothing conserved. When compared to single-family homes, for example, 1 acre foot of water typically serves somewhere between 3 and 4 single-family homes per year. So if we used four single-family homes here, that's about 1,760 homes. Through conservation fees and our GSI fees, we collect about $5,700 a year. And at the rate of about $750 an acre foot, that means we'd be able to offset about 77 acre feet per year. So what that means is the net water use for 760 homes would be reduced to about 363 acre feet a year. So that's just a general comparison of how all of these equate. But what we want to focus on and what we want to reiterate is that everything that Project Blue does will be water positive, and it will be required to replenish everything gallon for gallon. Next slide. So our One Water 2100 plan was approved by Mayor and Council in October of 2023. So if you haven't read this plan or been through it, I strongly encourage you to go to the link. Link is there on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. This was our long-range water plan, right? We looked at planning efforts all the way through year 2100. This is an integrated approach that incorporated the 4 waters that we've talked about here, and we saw them in earlier slides: surface water in the form of Colorado River water, recycled water, storm water, and of course groundwater are the 4 major waters that we look at. All water has value. This plan really looked at using the right water for the right purpose. And the great thing about this plan was this was developed by the community and in coordination with the community. We reached out to, I think it was between 40 and 50 different agencies. We had thousands of comments, dozens of workshops, town halls. So this was developed, and the strategies and actions that were included in this were developed and provided by the community. It wasn't just Tucson Water or just anybody in the city saying this is what we're going to do. This was a community-driven plan. We also looked at a number of scenarios within this that included increased demand, decreased demand, and an increase in same for supply. So increased and decreased supply. One of those scenarios, and it's often asked about, is what happens if and when Colorado River waters decrease. That was one of the scenarios we looked at. And this plan, even with projected growth and sustainable growth, showed that we have water resources available to meet the needs of the community through the year 2100. So there are a lot of things in there that would be great for everybody to review and understand. And all of the strategies that we just looked at for water positivity were identified in one way, shape, or form in the One Water plan. So this plan really kind of collects all of that and puts this all in one location. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Tim, for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Next slide. I've got a couple for you, and then I've been trying to catch up on things in the Q&A box. So after we do this water wrap up, I'm going to clean up a couple questions with the Beal team, and maybe even for you, Scott, and then we'll go to the next thing. So before we're done with you, Scott, first one is there's folks that are asking about the potable water use for the first 2 years for industrial. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions there. One is, why would that need potable water for the first 2 years? And why not wait until the reclaimed water line is built?
So great question. And the simple answer is right now there is no reclaimed water out there, and the reclaimed water will take quite a while to construct. It'll take 2 years. They're already looking at some due diligence efforts on the design to see what it would take to phase this project out. But the initial and the first answer is that there is no water supply out there, and for no reclaimed water supply. We do have the potable supply that's available. And one of the things that will be required, again, just to reiterate, is every drop of water that goes to this, including the potable water, will be replenished by Project Blue.
Okay. And I'm going to ask if we can bring Christina back on the screen. I think you'll, oh, wow, that was fast. I wasn't planning for it to be that fast. Good job. So related to that, and this is Christina or Scott, well, okay, this one's for Scott. Will city ratepayers pay any money toward the pipeline and the recharge facility to build them?
They will not. This will be entirely funded by Project Blue.
And then who then pays to operate and maintain those facilities?
That will be paid for through the rates paid by Project Blue. So they will pay standard rates just like everybody else, and that is a cost of service that is paid through the rate, and that will pay for the O&M, staff, materials, maintenance, just like any other facility.
All right. So Christina, when we were talking earlier about the cooling towers, and we all understand the first 2 years, and I said cooling towers, and you said it's not that technology. When that answer came, people were like, okay, then what will potable use be used in the things that are not cooling towers. It was unclear to at least one of the commenters about, oh, they're not using potable in cooling towers, but are they using potable somewhere else? So can you just clear out it's reclaimed water?
We'll be using reclaimed water for the cooling system. All industrial processes will use reclaimed water. We will still have potable water on site for things like sinks, bathrooms, any kitchen services. It'll essentially be an office building level of usage. I do also want to take a tiny bit of time to focus on the why aren't we waiting until this reclaimed water system is done, if I may.
Yes,
And the answer is again, like Scott said, there's no reclaimed water available. We are actively working kind of at risk before this project is fully approved to try and start as soon as possible so that when this project gets approval, we can begin constructing and so that we can condense any sort of timeline as much as possible while ensuring that we are building with quality. But by taking the lead and by building this reclaimed water system, to this area, which is already planned for industrial development, we are ensuring that if there's any future development in this area, they don't have to have this potable water timeline. They can start using reclaimed water on day one. And that's by us bringing this 18-mile pipeline all the way down, taking those 2 years, being allowed to, within reason, use potable water for our bringing up of our systems. And by working on all these projects in tandem, we're putting people to work on day one with our 3,000 local multi-year construction jobs in the first phase. And at the same time, we're employing others full-time and generating tax revenue and implementing water positive projects to minimize any of our water usage impact.
Thank you. Another question for Christina. People are reporting that in other locations, data centers have struggled with using reclaimed water for the cooling purposes. I know you're aware of that. Can you address that, how that's being handled for this facility?
Yeah, a lot of it is the pretreatment that I talked about earlier. So by treating this water again, we are ensuring that whatever hits our system is a high quality. And so we won't have any issues in our system. We will be able to stay on reclaimed water as long as possible by building in those steps now and assuming that we're going to need that treatment to remove all those minerals. That tends to be the difficulty. Another difficulty is also just reliability of the source water. And that's why we are building this aquifer recharge and recovery project and storing underground during the winter season so that we can actually have a large reservoir to pull from in the peak summer months. Water usage in data centers is very inconsistent and very peaky, but by building this reclaimed water aquifer recharge and recovery project, we're actually allowing Tucson Water to smooth out its operations, and we're kind of disconnecting it from the impacts of the rest of the system. So you don't have to pump all the way up from, Agua Nueva every single time we need water down at the Project Blue site.
Thanks, Christina. And then before we go to the energy presentation, one more question for Scott, and then I'm going to ask a question of Logan and a question of Carrie. So Scott, many people in the community are aware of the fact that we're also Tucson Water is going down the path of advanced water purification or direct potable reuse, which would be recycling some of the recycled water for potable use. And how does that? Is that in conflict with expansion of use of the reclaimed water for industrial uses? Could you address that?
So great question, one we've heard before, and especially in the case of Project Blue, is not in conflict, right? Where we will be installing an advanced water purification facility will be up at the Tres Rios water reclamation facility. Right now, all the water that is discharged into the Lower Santa Cruz Managed Recharge Project is discharged into the river, and any water that flows outside and beyond the boundaries past Trico Road of that recharge facility is lost. It's lost to the community, it's lost to the region. And right now we lose anywhere between 9,000 and 16,000 acre feet a year of water. Not all that is Tucson's, but a large portion of that is. So one of the benefits of the AWP facility that we'll be working on is we'll be pulling some of that water back and reusing that water locally. So the intent is to keep all that water local, use as much as we can here in Tucson. The other answer to that is we have an incredible opportunity to have a lot of that, to have that facility paid for. So that is through an agreement with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. They will be paying the $86.7 million to fund that facility. And again, that will be providing an opportunity for regional benefit, not only for us, but even the Bureau to reuse that water and keep that water here locally. So as we discussed earlier, the Lower Santa Cruz Managed Recharge Project is actually disconnected from anything that happens on the reclaim system right now. So it will not be impacting anything that you see here.
Thanks, Scott. And I'm going to show a diagram in a second to answer another question that will, so people can see the actual detail behind what you just said. Quick question for Logan. Who is Humphreys Peak and what's the relationship to Beal? Because the development agreement is with Humphreys Peak, but it's Beal here speaking on behalf of the project.
Yes, I can take that. It is a special purpose entity that was created for this project and is 100% owned by Beal Infrastructure. Such project-specific entities are pretty commonplace in real estate development, not just data centers, just real estate development on the whole. When I was developing solar facilities, every single project had a Delaware LLC special project entity created for that project, and it's nothing more than that. This is a 100% Beal-owned entity.
Thank you. That kept coming up, so thank you for that. And then Carrie, before we pivot to TEP, and this after last week's meeting, folks come up and we're starting about dark skies. We know there's a strong astronomy economy in Tucson. We have dark sky ordinances. It is a valuable part of Tucson's economy, but also our ethic of having a dark skies that enable that. How does the Project Blue data center, how does lighting work, and is there any implications to dark sky?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. And the easy answer is that this project will 100% comply with the city county outdoor lighting code. And just to give a little more flavor to that, Tim, you're right. This has been worked on for years. That outdoor lighting code has been propped up and used as examples throughout the country as a best in practices and is updated relatively frequently. The zoning that was adopted for this project in the county that will apply if annexed into the city actually states that it will comply with the outdoor lighting code. Even if it didn't state that, it is a city county adopted outdoor lighting code, and it applies to all properties within the city and county. And it does regulate lumens, light temperature, intensity of lighting, requires all lighting to be shielded. There are hours of operation as well. And there are requirements for lighting plans when developments are proposed as part of the development packages, and then it's enforced as a zoning code. So if you're in violation of the outdoor lighting code and you're reported, you will have to work with either the city or the county to bring it into compliance. So it will comply with our city county outdoor lighting code.
Okay, thank you for that. So the accountability piece on that is we have a code that regulates this, and compliance is not an optional thing.
That is correct.
All right, thank you for that. There's more there, but in the interest of time, we're going to go to TEP. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got one more thing to clear up. Next slide before we go to Ryan. This is a busy slide, and I'm not expecting it to be something people can digest just in this meeting. So I'm going to signal to everybody that this same slide will be part of the mayor and council meeting on August 6th. That's a study session. Again, no decision making by mayor and council yet, anything related to Project Blue. But as part of that council meeting, they wanted an update on the reclaimed water system so we can set baseline information about it, some of which Scott presented tonight. This will be included because we're going to be even more expansive in that meeting, just to make sure everybody knows the stuff we're talking about. The reason I brought up this slide for tonight is there's folks back hearing the back and forth from folks in the community and myself and others about whether Project Blue itself would affect flows in the Santa Cruz River. And people are saying, well, we're hearing both sides of that. But what are the numbers? How does that actually work? So again, I'm going to talk through this real quick, not with the expectation that that'll hit all the points right now, but it's in the agenda materials for the 6th that actually came out earlier this afternoon. So this is available out at the clerk's website. You can study it. You'll also get a deeper presentation on the 6th. And again, all well before any decisions are made. What I want to point out is that there's a green box on the right. The green box on the right is basically the reclaimed water demand that is served by the reclaimed water system. And it says customers. So and this is a snapshot from 2024. Each year varies a little bit, but the customers on the green in 2024, there was 13,200 acre feet that were delivered to Tucson water customers, and then you see an additional 3,000 acre feet of other people's effluent delivered to their customers. That includes Pima County, I believe probably Oro Valley's in that same number. So the Tucson water reclaim system has Tucson's water for Tucsonans. It also wheels water for other people or conveys their water to them. On the left, in the lower left, you see these blue boxes. One is labeled TARP. So as Scott explained, the water that goes into the reclaimed water system comes from a couple sources. One's the Agua Nueva wastewater treatment plant. TARP's the other one. So this 6,628 acre feet coming in from TARP, that's 2024. And it goes to serve customers along with there's 19,300 acre feet coming out of Agua Nueva. That 19,000 plus that 6,000 plus there's Silver Bell pump and treat in there for 1,300. That's what goes into the reclaim system. And then 13,000 is what comes out. So what's the difference? Why is more water going in than coming out? You see a couple of other things shown there. One is in the lower right, Southeast Houghton Area Recharge Project, or SHARP. So 2,600 acre feet went into SHARP and not to customers, so it's stored for the future. That's a great thing. And then on the right-hand side, you see Sweetwater Recharge Facility and an arrow going into that. There's 11,700 acre feet that goes into the reclaim system, not to a customer, and it goes to the Sweetwater Recharge Facilities. The Sweetwater Recharge Facilities are not the same as the Sweetwater Wetlands. You see this separate arrow of 1,600 acre feet going to the wetlands, and then you see Silver Bell Golf Course is a golf course that's served by recycled water, but not on the reclaim system. I know I just probably lost everybody right there. But when we talk about if you add a Project Blue to the green box, if you add 440 acre feet or 1,900 acre feet, the 440 would cause the 13,000 to go up by 440. And again, that fluctuates every year. That 440 wouldn't come from the river, and there's a lot of reasons why we would keep flowing the river. It would actually be less water that would go into the Sweetwater Recharge Facilities, not the wetlands. The wetlands are covered, the wetlands remain, the wetlands are incredibly valuable to the community. It'd be less water going into the Sweetwater Recharge Facilities. And that's if nothing else was changing. So you'd have more water demand, less water going into storage at Sweetwater. But that TARP plant on the lower left, and Scott mentioned this, that delivered 6,600 acre feet. On an annual basis, that could be as much as 7,500. Within the next year, that capacity is going to be 10,000 acre feet per year because we're adding pretreatment on the front end of that plant. And we're not doing that to serve Project Blue. If Project Blue is approved, we're doing that because we're operating TARP as a Superfund remedy, and we have to capture the plume and we have to treat that water. So what will change on this diagram is there will be about 2,500 acre feet more water going into the reclaim system. And even at build out, 2,000 acre feet coming out. So the difference between today and 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 5 years from now is actually even more water going into the system than is coming out, even with Project Blue. And if you know, if there's fluctuation in how much is coming out of TARP or out of Agua Nueva, what changes is the amount of water going into storage of sweet water. So I know that's a lot, it's crazy, but that's the flow diagram, and a version of this is in the materials, and we can, anybody wants to follow up on that, we can talk at length about it. But that's the system behind the magic there. Next slide, please. All right, we still got one big segment of presentation with questions around it. So this is energy. And as I turn it to you, Ryan, I'm going to also seed a question to you that came in through the chat tonight. So a question that's coming up a lot is, we've talked a lot about the water supply in Tucson and the reclaim system. And the question that comes up repeatedly is, but what about the water needs outside of Tucson for the increased energy demand? It's a very fair question, comes up all the time, and I just want to seed that to you as you go into your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me all right, Tim?
You're good.
Okay, good. I just wanted to introduce myself briefly. I'm Ryan Anderson. I manage our business development department here at TEP. Worked at TEP for about 8 years. And the reason I'm speaking tonight is because my department supports our existing customers, largely our commercial and industrial ones, your school districts, hospitals, the city, the county, the airport, our military installations, the mines. And we also support economic development, which up until about a year and a half ago was pretty sleepy. But my department supports that engagement and runs these prospective customers through the process. So that's why I'm speaking tonight. We're here to support a data-driven discussion and transparency. I want to talk about the diligence a utility does as we carry out our mission to steward the grid for all customers. And I do have to ask for a little compassion. You know, I get nervous talking to big groups of people, but please do fact check me if I get anything wrong unintentionally. We have a great website. If you go to tep.com, you can find a lot of this content on the website, and there will be more opportunities to engage. So if I don't quite answer your questions tonight, which I hope to do, we'll see you at the next one. I only have 3 slides. Tried to divide most of the questions we've been receiving into themes. And you know, before I move into that, I just want to thank all the council members and the supervisors for how responsive they've been to the constituencies and sending those questions into the city and to TEP to get to really support this dialogue. So I think it's been really an amazing effort. Okay, on to the next slide, please. So the first of the 3 themes that I'm seeing in a lot of the questions is reliability. I'll just jump in. The other 2 are impacts to rates. And then, of course, the question that Tim kind of led with, which is the sustainability, the climate impacts. So to focus in on reliability, first thing I want to say here is that reliability it's the whole picture. It involves generation, it involves transmission, so taking all the energy from generation resources, moving it into what we call the load pockets. So City of Tucson's a load pocket, and then distributing that energy through the service area. So distributions after it's been stepped down into transformers and goes into your home. All that requires diligence, 8760. So every hour of the year, every minute of the day, we have folks on point, ensuring that we have the right voltage, the right frequency. It takes long-term planning. It takes constant seasonal investments and upgrades. I think we've invested $1.7 billion in the grid since 2021. So it's a constant process. We have real-time operators like the one you're seeing there, and then we have rapid response. So the way we restore service during storms or other things like that. And of course, it is highly scrutinized. You know, we are subject to both federal and state regulation. You can look up FERC, that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and see what they do. You can look up NERC. They're the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, both federal entities that ensure that customers have reliable power because it is a critical asset. And then you have the Arizona Corporation Commission, and also known as the ACC. ACC was established by the Arizona Constitution. A lot of people call it the 4th branch of government. They're elected commissioners. I would definitely pay attention to who you vote for the commission, because it really impacts our lives. The Arizona Corporation Commission is responsible for reviewing rate cases, again, ensuring that power is reliable, that it's safe, affordable, and you're getting more and more about it being sustainable. So this other bullet, the next bullet I'm getting to, TEP will not commit to serve new load to large load customers without ensuring that they won't compromise our reliability. You can see there, we're really proud of the fact that TEP has top tier reliability. Been 12 years running, 99.9% reliability. You can see how we calculate that on the website. So when a project like Project Blue comes in, they are subject to all the rules and regulations that govern all of our customers. And one of those rules and regulations, as determined by the ACC, states that any customer that requires infrastructure for their sole use and benefit, they pay for. It's pretty straightforward. There are larger implications that a lot of people have pointed to in terms of grid-wide upgrades, both to generation assets and to transmission assets. That is a very good question. You know, that's something that we've been tracking and watching as more mature data center markets wrestle with this, and we luckily get to benefit from their experience. I probably will speak more about that later, but just want to move through the slides so we can get to your Q&A. Next slide, please. Rates. So I touched on this at our last public meeting. Utility rate making can be seen as a complicated process, but I want to try and summarize it as best we can here. When you look at a large commercial industrial customer that have high steady energy use, think of it like a driving on the highway versus driving in the city. So when you're on the highway, your car is just kind of at a steady 60 miles an hour, maybe set it into cruise control. And in many ways, that's the most efficient use of your vehicle. You don't have the wear and tear of the stop start. When you're driving in the city, you're accelerating, you're braking. Many customers, like me as a residential customer, my use goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up, then it goes down. A data center, their use is just steady. Well, it's steady, it's just pretty high use. That's actually an efficient use of the grid. That helps us recover costs from all of our infrastructure that we have to build out in the system to serve all customers. So in the utility rate making world, a large user with a really high, what's called load factor, i.e. steady use, is a good thing for the system. And the way that we design our tariffs, and again, you can look up, there's a lot of information about tariff design, utility rate design. The way that we design our tariffs is to make sure we cover the costs associated with serving that class of customers. And for big customers like what Project Blue would be, we will cover their costs and then some. Project Blue service would be provided through what's called our LPS TOU HV, so our large power user time of use high voltage rate. And that's a tariff we have available for big customers. But because there's been some lessons learned and because the Project Blue team heard our CEO loud and clear, I was in the meeting when Susan Gray, our CEO, sat down with the Project Blue team for the first time, and she said her number one condition was that no existing customers are exposed to any risk or costs associated with the project. And the Blue team said, okay. And we said, okay, let's get into a contract. So you do have times when a customer does more than just a tariff, they'll enter into a special contract. And if you enter into a special contract, the corporation commissioners must review that contract. There has been a docket opened, and we got some good questions about this that came in. If you go to the Arizona Corporation Commission's website, they've opened a docket on data center development impacts to the state of Arizona. And the chair at the time, Commissioner Kevin Thompson, he made a statement, which was the kind of leading banner, which is he believes it's their responsibility and mandate to ensure that all existing customers are protected from cost and risk exposure from these kinds of developments. So they're voted into office by residential customers. So they have a very specific motivation for doing so. And I think they also take their obviously they take their stewardship very seriously. Next slide. So energy sustainability. This is the question I've been getting a lot from folks that are focused not on the jobs piece, not on the tax revenue to support kind of our city spending programs, but really focused on some really big picture things. And it's a lot. There is a lot associated with data center development, you know, for better or for worse. I first started seeing the headlines around data center development, its potential and real impacts in the winter of last year. If you go back and start Googling, I remember seeing a headline from the Washington Post about America's energy capacity, and the New York Times had some pieces about climate goals and data center development's impact to those, and Wall Street Journal talking about investments being made. So it's catalytic, and the fact that people are paying attention is really appropriate. So that's a big question, and I've been seeing that folks are getting together in the community and talking that through, and I think that's great. I'm going to try and stay focused on this project, but going to those bullet points, the data center, Project Blue, as they stated a number of times, are interested in TEP's service area because we do have high solar production, both utility owned, and there's a lot of distributed generation, and we have potential to do more. TEP and Beal have been talking about for as long as we've been engaging with them about how to support the development of new carbon-free resources. The way that the Project Blue team describes what they see as their role, and again, they speak best themselves, but they've talked about being a catalytic force for accelerating TEP's move into more renewable generation resources. So exciting. We, of course, remain committed to achieving the net zero direct greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. You may have seen the announcement that we're going to be taking our coal plants, our coal-fired generation at Springerville offline by 2030 and repowering that with natural gas. That's an exciting move. That's a bridge from more carbon-intensive fossil fuel generation resources to less carbon-intensive. So that's a bridge solution. I think the latest, what I saw was that it's going to be a 40% reduction in our carbon emissions. So continuing to move in the right direction. This is a big question we keep getting. You know, how are you going to serve this initial phase? And if you take a look again at our website, something I think TEP is proud of, you'll see that in 2020, we released what's called an integrated resource plan. That's a plan that's developed in consultation with a lot of stakeholders, the city, the county, consumer advocates, state, and it helps us determine what kind of resource mix makes the most sense with affordability in mind, reliability, just procurement issues, and then of course carbon emissions. So in 2020 we posted an IRP. We posted another IRP in 2023, and we will do another one in the future. I think that's going to launch fairly soon. So in 2023, we determined that we wanted to move heavily into solar and storage, and I think that was linked to the Inflation Reduction Act. And here has worked out such that we just are bringing a 200 megawatt energy storage project online. We've got future stages planned. You can look that up. It's the Roadrunner energy storage system. We have more solar in the works, but the initial phase of this project is going to be served from existing resources, and those new resources are all carbon-free. So again, the timing is good. Most people say, okay, that's fine, but let's talk about future phases. Future phases are subject to everything, the same process we've been doing through all these years. You issue an all source request for proposals, and all source means every generation source. So natural gas, geothermal, solar plus storage, wind, and you look at cost, affordability, you look at reliability, and you look at carbon emissions, and you take all those various commitments and you try to find the best solution for it. So future phases will be subject to that kind of process. I hope that's not all too arcane. I wanted to just hit those three major themes of reliability, that is highly vetted, highly monitored, and no impacts or no concerns for impacts to reliability. To rates, though it may be counterintuitive, when you have a big customer coming online, particularly one with a load factor like Project Blue's in a data center, it helps you recover costs more efficiently and use system assets more efficiently. And then 3, energy sustainability. I can say that one of the reasons I work for TUP is because it reflects a lot of the community values around sustainability. And Project Blue has, when they came into town, and I remember our first engagement, the first thing I said to them was pick up One Water 2100, pick up the city's Tucson Resilient Together, also known as a Climate Action Adaptation Plan, and pick up the county sustainability plan for their operations. And they did. And that's why we're talking about the project we're talking about today. Over to you, Tim, if you have questions.
Thank you, Ryan. A couple questions for you, and then just want to let people know that we've got additional questions that have been coming in, and we're going to do our best to process that in the time remaining. And any questions that we received that we don't get to tonight, there's Monday night still coming, and there's also the online tracking of questions and data. So you covered this in your presentation to a degree, but just putting it quite bluntly to you, data centers use a lot of energy. Can TEP manage that demand?
Thank you, Tim. I hear two things in there. Data centers do bring a lot of energy. Could we satisfy the demand of all data centers that want to move into TEP service area? That would take a long time, cost a lot of money. So I just want to say it's a big issue, and I think my friends and family are tired of me talking about data centers. As I mentioned before, we've been seeing this stuff in the headlines, but I want to talk about this specific project, and I want to talk about this specific phase. And the answer is yes, we can serve this. And let me tell you how that happens. So when Project Blue first comes into the service area, comes in through my department, and they say, hi, we'd like to build a data center. And we say, let's do an initial check. What kind of load profile do you think you have? And when they shared their load profile, we thought, that's very large. And we said, you're going to need to do a system impact study. So a system impact study takes about 180 days. And the project developer has to provide us with detailed information about their load profile, how they're going to use energy, how much they're going to use energy, when they're going to use energy. And our engineers study the impacts to our system, transmission, all the transformation you have to do to step it down to distribution, and also impacts to generation. So it's a very deep look. Once we get the results of that system impact study, we move into what's called a facility study. And a facility study identifies the exact infrastructure needed to serve the project. So for this initial phase, the only facilities we need infrastructure-wise is a switchyard. So the parcel that the Project Blue team and the county identified as their launch phase is right along some of our large transmission lines. So basically we have to tap off a transmission line, drop in a switchgear, and that switchgear will actually enhance overall system reliability because it allows us to control flows in the region. So finally, and I'll try and wrap this up, Tim, after we've gone through the system impact study, the facility study, then we move into either to get onto an existing tariff or you develop a contract. And so here we developed a special contract that will go to the ACC and they'll review it. And I also want to note that Project Blue did not ask for the economic development rider, no discounts associated with it. So in fact, they took extra provisions. So thank you for that question.
Thanks, Ryan. So I'm going to tack this next one right onto that. Is that contract that then ultimately is reviewed by the ACC the primary mechanism to protect existing ratepayers? Because the question is, and we hear this from other cities who have been down the data center path, and there's some regrets there, and we even have heard from the ACC to a degree, whether or lack of confidence existing ratepayers. And so can you address that existing ratepayer? You've touched on it from load and all that, but is that contract a part of that too?
Yes. I point you to that docket that the Arizona Corporation Commission opened, and look at that statement by the chair that says data center development must not shift any risk or cost to existing customers. And they're the ones that will be reviewing the contract. Those elected commissioners.
Thanks, Ryan. And then can you touch a little bit more, just one more time for us, on the water needs for the energy needs?
That's a harder one. When the energy water nexus is an important one, and I think it's an astute observation. It really depends on the resource mix you're talking about. Currently, our resource mix is 50% natural gas, about 22% solar and wind, about 18% coal, and 9% purchased. And we're moving away from that coal, as you know. So solar and wind, almost no water associated with energy generation there. The amount of water consumed for natural gas and coal, I believe we have that posted. But our water use, based on our current plans, is projected to decline over time. So what it means in the future for future phases of Project Blue, that will really depend on the resource mixes that we build out moving forward. And that resource mix will be determined in our resource planning process that will ultimately go into our integrated resource plan in consultation with the community. It will also be affected by the fact that Project Blue has strong commitments to having low carbon emissions, and they're very pro renewable energy generation. So hard to say. I can only answer that way.
That's fair. And I think what most people are seeking is what are facts? What do we know? What do we not know? What are the risks? And so what I took away from that, though, is currently you're on a trajectory, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm actually hearing your answers for the first time as well. That your current trajectory, which has increasing power supply and generation, actually has decreasing water use to create that, because the shift of energy types you're currently on is less water intensive.
Our path now, right. So as we, right now, the initial phase that we're serving Project Blue is additional solar and solar plus storage. That has zero water use.
Okay.
If their aspirational project, if they want to grow much more, the water consumption will depend on the resource mixes that we build out to serve future phases.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Ryan. And I'd like to call up Beal one more time, and then Scott Tobias from PDEQ, if you can make your way to the screen. I want to address one of the other questions that came up, and it's a new one to me as well. There's a question around low frequency noise from data centers. And I don't know if that's a Logan or an Arno, but I know nothing about this, so I'm turning it straight to you to say, what gives with low frequency noise?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And right before we get to that, before we leave energy, I do want to call everyone's attention to a press release that was went out there today, where Beal Infrastructure is committing to working with TEP to pursue additional carbon-free energy resources to serve future growth in Southern Arizona. There's some great information in there, and I do encourage everyone to take a look at that. But on to some sound questions, and I'll turn that over to Arnaud to answer.
Yeah, so first addressing at a high level, just the question around sound, which is, how much is coming out of this facility. The city of Tucson has actually a very clear noise ordinance in place, which outlines maximum levels of sound as recorded on the property line. And then it's dependent on the adjacent use. It's dependent on whether it's daytime or nighttime. And so, the short answer to that is that Project Blue will be respecting all of those requirements within that noise ordinance. So that's something that I want to make very clear, that we won't exceed those. The other piece of that, so in terms of the low frequency, and that question coming up, generally those low frequencies that you're referring to are created by cooling systems that are not the ones that we selected for this project. Data centers in other locations, but have, and the ones that, the community is likely reading about, are the ones that use a different cooling technology than the one that we're using, which are louder and emit those types of sounds that you're referring to. So we do not expect that to be an issue here. And again, I'll reiterate the point that we will be well within all the noise requirements set by the city of Tucson.
Arno, a quick follow-up, and again, this is off the top of my head. Is there, for the type of technology you're using, that the claim is it doesn't make as much noise as other technologies that people have had bad experiences with? Is there an independent national set of standards or independent, is there independent proof that demonstrates that is there a report or a research study or anything that could bolster that claim?
I would have to get back to you on that one, to be
Okay.
honest. I don't have anything to point to right now, but we can certainly do some research and point you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you for taking that question. And I think that's just something that I think if it exists, it's helpful, because we often can't, we rely on water quality standards. We rely on a number of things to say what's healthy, what's not. So if that exists, I'd be very curious to be able to understand and share that.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is keeping in mind that a lot of this technology is cutting edge and is proprietary. So these reports aren't necessarily out in the public. It's very dependent on each location, on each data center, on each the type of technology that's used. But we'll look into that for you.
Okay, thank you for seeing what you can uncover there.
Yeah, and, just to follow up there, we'll certainly look for some third-party published information there to share with the community. Most of the anecdotal evidence around these low frequency noises are associated with a cooling technology known for air-cooled chillers. They're essentially these enormous industrial air conditioning units that sit on the roofs and in the equipment yards of these buildings, and that's what is emitting a lot of this noise. But we are, we don't have those. That is not what we're the technology that we're looking at.
Okay. All right, and before I pivot to Scott Tobias, I'll also point to there's a university just down the road there that probably has some folks that could probably help out with that question as well. So, and just for the good of the order here, we've also been reached out to by the University of Arizona folks to look at this issue of net water positivity and how they could serve as perhaps an independent set of expertise to review that at early stages of that. But I'm pretty sure that's the kind of thing that mayor and council would want to go down that path with the community partners to if we end up ultimately moving forward or helping make that decision making. That's another thing I just wanted to mention that's relatively hot off the presses that we could throw into the mix. With that, I've got a series of questions for Scott, if we can bring him to the fold.
I'm here, Tim.
Okay, I've got two Scotts, and one of them is the right Scott. There he is. Okay, so Scott, would you mind reintroducing yourself for the folks that weren't there on last week?
Good evening, everybody. I'm the director here at Pima Department of Environmental Quality. My name is Scott Tobias. I've been in the air quality field for over 30 years. I've been with the county for the last couple of years, and I appreciate all the conversation so far tonight.
Thanks, Scott. And so I've got 4 questions for you. By no means is this all of the questions in the environmental space, but these are some ones that I don't know that we've addressed quite as yet. So first question is, people are asking, why is there no environmental impact statement or EIS for this project?
So I would say that it's not a requirement under our current code for the department. But with that said, Supervisor Allen, after their vote, asked for the county administration and the board, approved this for the county administration to work on a new policy for environmental impact assessments moving forward. So we're working with county administration and other departments to put the mechanisms in place to have an environmental impact assessment for future economic development projects. And I do believe Carrie mentioned earlier that they did do an environmental impact assessment, at least with the phase 1 part of it, and she spoke to that earlier.
If Carrie, do you mind weighing in a little bit too? Because I want to also just clarify the word environmental and assessment or a statement, all of those words are terms of art. So when somebody says an EIS, from my experience, that's usually an environmental impact statement is related to a NEPA process for a federal project. And this is not a federal project. So I think people are grasping for how are we assessing the environmental impacts potential of this project. And I think some people point to an EIS because they've heard of an EIS or they're familiar with the process of an EIS. EIS is NEPA federal different. But what, and this is for either of you, what environmental studies have been done and can they be shared? That might be Carrie.
Yes, so thank you for the question. Biological and cultural surveys were both done as part of the specific plan process. And those are within the actually public specific plan document that went through the county zoning. And then as additional development plans are processed, it gets into a little bit more detail in those. And Tim, to your point, an EIS is a federal term, and there is no what we call federal nexus on this site that would require what those of us in the industry know to be an actual federal EIS. So the cultural and the biological were done as part of the zoning entitlements.
Okay. And so not having any EIS doesn't mean environmental work's not being done and assessments aren't being done. It's just term of art there. Then the question, Scott, air quality comes up regularly. And could you remind folks about how air quality is managed on a project like this? And then we'll go into some wrap up here in a moment. So.
Yeah, from a regulatory standpoint, there's, as it relates to air pollution activities, there's an air permitting process through the county and through this department. That would be a public process where the source would come in with an application, provide the information associated with the project, whether including and not limited to the emissions associated with the project, the equipment that's going to be used, any other type of control equipment and limitations they would be doing on their operations. All of that would be as part of our robust public participation process as part of the permitting, similar to what's been going on tonight. There would be a public process associated with that. That hasn't started yet. That will, depending on how everything goes at the city, will be incorporated in the future and be transparent in a public process.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. And so we're at just a minute before our official end time, and I might bleed over by a minute or two here. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. At one point, we had peaked at, on the data I can see, a little bit over 500 attendees. So thank you all for attending. I want to queue up 2 additional policy level questions that as you see this conversation move, Monday night will be another in-person town hall. And then the study session on the 6th will be a conversation with the council where staff essentially present to the council, what do we know, what do we not know about Project Blue. But it has certainly triggered or been a catalyst for broader conversations than this. And I think there's two fundamental questions that I think mayor and council will be wrestling with at that August 6th meeting. One is, okay, data centers are high water users. That is clear. And we are looking at a project as proposed that has mitigation for that, has investments for that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of water use at a data center. And essentially the council is going to be faced with the question, is that the best use of that water? And how much confidence do they have in water positivity? How much control? And I do pay my electric bill. My light keeps going out on me. So that's a ripe question, whether it's Project Blue or any other project. And then the other one is the council I'm expecting will really be taking on the issue of how to better prepare the city generally about data centers generally, even beyond Project Blue. So Project Blue is a specific project that is data centers that has certain facts associated with it that mayor and council will be judging and assessing and making decisions around. But that doesn't stop the conversation there, and that doesn't solve the bigger questions. And many of the bigger questions that are in the chat for tonight or at the town halls is, what about data centers generally speaking? And so I'm expecting that conversation will be launching hard on August 6th. So town hall Monday, August 4th, 5 to 7 at the TCC. I think we're in the grand ballroom area. And then mayor and council study session on Wednesday, August 6th. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will keep trying to gather information.